Hi, my name is David Eisman, and how many of you have seen a slide like this? Entrepreneurship and you, or anything of that matter. I myself have seen this constantly, whether it's on BuzzFeed articles, or Yahoo Finance, Business Insider, or presentations given on YouTube or in real life. They're meant to hook you, to make you think about, hey, I can be an entrepreneur, I can be a business person. But in my experience, there's a couple problems with this. So when you go to these articles, you'll see something very similar to this. Steps 1 through 10. Very linear. How to start a business. But if you really look into it, you'll see there's a couple problems. For the first part, step 1, write a business plan. But what does that mean? What's a business plan? How do you write one? Who are you going to show it to? Who even wants to read your business plan? And why would they care? If this is all on the internet and millions of people can see it, and they're going to all write their business plan, why would anyone care about yours? Business success, entrepreneurship, it's not linear, but the internet makes it seem like it is. There's a couple reasons for this. One is that it sells well. You're going to click on it more, and they generate ad revenue on clicks. And second is because it generates a lot of hype, and then you're going to go to that article or website more. So with my own experience, I went on these websites and I watched these YouTube presentations, and I went to a couple of these presentations, and I thought, wow, I'm going to start a business. It seems easy. Steps 1 through 10, I can do that. Just follow the rule book. And pretty soon you'll be Bill Gates. Or not. So what did I do? I went on the internet, like they told me, and I wrote a business plan, and I gathered a team, a multicultural team, international. It was about 20 people all around the world working with me to make a video game based on narrative and narrative structure. Our influences were a new type of genre called the walking simulator. Most people don't know what it is, but it's basically just a narrative-driven experience with some interactive elements. So what happened when I created this video game company was that I learned that you actually need to know every single skill and at least a basic to advanced level in order to manage a team of at least 20 people. Management skills, entrepreneurial skills, and time management production is not enough. You need to know every single skill. That includes graphic design, 3D animation, 3D modeling, lighting, shaders, coding, programming, UI, UX, GUI. A lot of those words make no sense to you, and that's the point. But what I learned is that it's important to know what all these things are. So when I left this company, I realized that I needed to start learning all I could in order to not repeat the same mistakes I did. Because when you start this company, you're actually going to hit something that in entrepreneurial terms is called the wall. When you hit the wall, you can either do one of two things: stop or pivot. When I hit the wall, it hurt a lot. No one ever actually tells you how much it hurts. They just tell you, oh, you'll hit the wall, you'll pivot, you'll stop. But running headfirst into a brick wall is not fun. So when I stopped, I went into learning more things. I started coding and learned more about production and learned more about modeling and animation. And now I'm focusing on the power of the story. But what does that mean? That just seems like entrepreneurship in you, just something that you can click on and it'll make you feel better and say, let's start a business, let's create a story. But it's actually really important. Because when you think about it, story is in everything. Narrative is in everything. Whether you're a marketer trying to sell some pop chips, or you're a doctor actually explaining something to a group of people in a presentation. Everything requires a narrative. I myself like to look into animation and video games, of course, into finding the greatest of narratives. So, for example, how many of you have seen the movie Up by Pixar? Of course. If you watch the first 5 minutes, it's the greatest example of narrative without dialogue. It really goes through all the motions and steps in order to create a great narrative. And they literally do that with almost no dialogue, just set pieces, scenery, and animation. Another great story that's told is through a video game called The Last of Us. They have to tell a story within about 16 hours, so a lot of people are going to stop playing that game within 16 hours because they have better things to do. Or they don't. But the important thing is they were able to grab the audience and make them want to keep playing. The final example of a great story is a YouTube video that recently came out on a channel called Shmoyo. Probably none of you have seen it. It's called Chicken Attack. The story is that an old Japanese man is able to turn chickens into ninjas through the power of yodeling. Now that's a great story. I'd say arguably better than Up and The Last of Us, but that's just my opinion. But other people can gather narrative in other places. I'm sure a lot of people find Game of Thrones or maybe even the Teletubbies to be awesome narrative structures. But it doesn't really matter where you get your stories from, as long as you learn from them. So what am I doing now? In addition to focusing more on the power of the story, I'm also working with the Browning School to create something called Gamecraft, where we're working with a company called Playcrafting, which is an offshoot of Microsoft, to host a giant game festival that will talk not just about the power of the story, but also about interactive elements, how they meld together. In addition to that, I'm also doing more writing and really focusing on how to write a great story. Because if you know how to write a great story, you don't need these articles and business plans in the first slide that I showed you. Because you have to find your own way to start a business or become successful. Because there's no single path to success or starting a business. Thank you.